What's up, everybody? Today I am going to talk about diet. Oh, diet, 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 diet. It's just a word I have a very bad association with, mainly because they hardly ever work, right? I mean, I think you're probably with me on that one. We always just start diets and just fall off the wagon. When I think of diet, I think of a New Year's resolution, something short term, something like, hey, I got a beach vacation coming up soon. Let me trim down and look the best I can for that. Hey, this year's going to be my high school reunion. Let me go look really great and convince everybody that I'm not a slob. Just short term things, a means to an end. Like, I think I'm just going to have starve myself for a little while, and then I'm going to eat chicken breast and salads. And I'll probably have a glass of water with lemon to wash it down. Yeah, that sounds great, right? No, it doesn't sound great. To me, diet doesn't scream lifestyle change. It doesn't scream transformation because, like I said, it's short term. And last year, when I personally fell off the wagon again with my diet and exercise routine, I started to wonder, well, why is that? Why does it always fail? And to me, I never really use diet as a go-to first. Like, I don't say, hey, I need to drop 20 pounds, let me fix my diet. Personally, I would just work out like a madman, go running all the time, do cycling or some endurance cardio type thing, and let my food just kind of stay the same, if not cleaned up just a little bit, until I plateaued. And then when I plateau, I dial in the diet, kind of like I said, go with chicken breast and salads, and see how far that could take me after that. Eventually, that just gets super boring. I start starving. I'm like hungry all the time because of the way I'm working out, and I'm not feeding my body, so just go back to normal. Another thing that I've always fought in the past was sugar addictions and cravings, just like I said, feeling hungry all the freaking time and just loving sweets, loving cakes, loving sugar, and everything else that goes along with it. So I started doing a little thought experiment, like, why is it, what should I do, change, how can I get this to not be the same old thing every time? And I listen to a ton of podcasts, I listen to a ton of audiobooks, and just I'm a research nut and I like random facts that sometimes I never use, sometimes I use, like in this case. And I started hearing a lot about gut health, paleo, ketogenic diets, and every time I heard one of these specialists talk, or every time I heard a book about a certain topic, I would hear like a piece. And I started to realize that these are all just random pieces, but a lot of times they overlapped a little bit, and it was beginning to seem like this was all pieces to the same puzzle, and that really just clicked with me. So I started to dig a little bit deeper, and the first thing I stumbled on was a video about Candida, and I'll link that up right here. The video you're seeing here is about Candida, which is a bacterial overgrowth that is fed by sugar. And hey, someone like me that loves sugar all the time, I think that may be an issue. Also, the video, which I'll link below, tells you a little bit about where our fear of fats came from. And I thought that was super interesting and more of a side note, but really all parts of the same puzzle, like I said. After that, I started learning about insulin resistance. And the reason I really cared about insulin resistance, or really started, keeping that train of thought going, was because I had been training for 10K, the Crescent City Classic last year, and I was doing the traditional diet things, and I was running a ton. I had to put a ton of mileage in every week in order to train for that. But yet I was still having trouble losing weight, and I was wondering why that was. And then I started looking around, and there's a lot of chubby runners out there. There's a lot of people that can do a 10K super easily, but still have a bunch of weight on them. And I don't really understand how that works, because I know I eat like a garbage disposal, but everybody out there that's a little bit heavier can't be doing so much abundant eating that calories in versus calories out is the only thing. So when you start digging into it, you start seeing things like metabolic syndrome and leaky gut and on and on and on. And one of the things is insulin resistance. So what is insulin resistance, right? Now, first I'll tackle what insulin does. Basically, you have a steady blood sugar, right? But when you eat, it goes up. You have too high blood sugar, your body triggers an insulin response. It releases insulin to get that blood sugar down. And what that actually does is signals your body, hey, we got way too much sugar in the bloodstream, let's store it. All that extra sugar, store. So it brings your blood sugar down. Sometimes it goes too far down and you get hypoglycemic and you feel irritable and potentially hangry, right? All right, so you eat, it goes up, crash, up, crash, up, crash. Not that good. Insulin resistance, though, is when your blood sugar starts to climb, your body releases insulin, but it's not getting the same result that it used to, so it doesn't go down as easily. So you have to release even more insulin, and then even more insulin. And eventually that just leads to type 2 diabetes, which, no good, right? Also, if that insulin is always telling your body to store away, and you keep shoveling in, I think that means something, doesn't it? The other thing to consider when looking at insulin is IGF1. IGF1 stands for insulin-like growth factor. Now, IGF1 is a good thing. It happens in your body normally. As we grow, we need insulin growth factor to help us grow up. So we'll have different growth spurts throughout life, and we'll have times when we really need IGF1. Bodybuilders like to trigger it so they can grow. But once you're an adult and you stop growing, you really need to slow that IGF1 down, because IGF1 will trigger excess cell proliferation or cell growth. So you'll have all these extra copies of cells being made even though you don't really need them. Problem with that is you can have mistakes along the way. And a mistake in a cell copy, if it keeps on going on, turns into cancer. So again, no bueno, right? And that actually leads me to my next thought process. So to keep you going in this train of thought and how I arrived to using a ketogenic style diet as my go-to, if you have cancer cells that happen in your body, we all have cancer cells in our body, but a lot of them get killed off and swept out, and we're good to go. We never have to deal with real cancer. So my thought process was, how can I make sure that my body gets rid of these cancer cells? How can I kickstart that seek and destroy methodology where cells that aren't supposed to be there get killed off, swept out, and excreted, when that actually has a term, which is apoptosis and autophagy? How can I kickstart that? How can I make my body do what it needs to? Go look around and clean up. And I found that one of the answers to that is intermittent fasting, or just long-term fast in general. What happens is, after your body is done digesting all that food that you've been shoveling in, it has a chance to look around, see if there's any mess that needs to clean up, kind of like after a party. And then after that, it starts to minimize. Think of spring cleaning. So we get rid of the clutter, we get rid of the extra cells, we get rid of the dead, dying things that need to get out. So we have to give our bodies a chance. So if you don't know what intermittent fasting is, basically you're trying to restrict your eating window. Time restricted eating and intermittent fasting are slightly different. But for intermittent fasting, what you're trying to do is stop your eating window at night, say at 8 p.m., and then don't have your first meal until about 10 p.m., which is going to give you about a 14-hour fast. And you can do that every day. I wouldn't really recommend that. You can do it a couple times a week. You can do it once a week, whatever you feel you need to do. But 10, 12, 14, 16, depends on you. Just try to give yourself a little bit of opportunity to fast so that your body can do that natural cell cleanup. Right. I know it sounds all fine and good. However, how the heck are you going to do that? Like me, I wake up ravenous, and I'm not going to go about 4 or 5 hours without eating and function properly. So I need to figure out, how can I make myself, or how can I change my fundamental diet in a way that will allow me to do that intermittent fasting that's so popular these days. But first, I'm going to make a small admission before I just move on. Personally, in the past, I fed into the idea, and I researched proper ways of eating, and one of the ways was 6 smaller meals throughout the day. And to me, that made a lot of sense. Like, if you think about it, the way I equate it is like this here: the I Love Lucy classic episode when they're in the chocolate factory and you start getting one chocolate, another chocolate, one chocolate, another chocolate. It's good to go, right? You're just getting these small portions into your body can process it easily. Whereas if the conveyor belt starts kicking out 5, 6, 20 freaking chocolates there, or you start feeding your body these huge meals, it's going to take a lot longer, and your body's just going to get a little frazzled. At least that's the mentality that I had when I looked at it. And it made sense to me. Like, hey, if I just feed these 200 to 400 calorie meals to myself throughout the day, little bite-sized chunks, I'd have a better opportunity at processing it. So that makes sense, but it kind of goes back to the insulin like I was talking about. Every time you eat, you get this roller coaster effect going on. And I noticed that I was having these instances where I'd just be working and my focus would just be gone. And I could look at my watch and it would be about 10 minutes to 9, or, plus or minus a certain time frame. Like I have a very structured eating habit right now. Like literally I have to eat at 6, 9, 11, 2, 6, and then probably again at 8. So it's kind of frustrating sometimes because you just can't go throughout your day without thinking about the next meal. It's frustrating because you start actually losing focus and need to find something to eat. And I really wanted to cut that out, and that's why intermittent fasting was something that I really wanted to look into, and trying to figure out how I can achieve that was intriguing to me. All right, we've covered a lot. What's the solution, right? As I kind of mentioned or alluded to, the ketogenic diet is really what I'm going to try to tackle first. I think that's going to be the best way forward for me. Hopefully you'll check this out and make decisions for yourself. That's my whole goal here, is to present information to you, see what I'm doing, see if it's something that you might want to try, see if it's something that works for you. I don't know. And I'm not going to speak for everybody because everybody's very different. So to me, the ketogenic lifestyle is going to be what I'm going to try. And just so happened that I stumbled upon the Keto Reset diet by Mark Sisson as I was starting to ramp up for this vlog and starting to make that change. And it was really, really good timing, because the Keto Reset diet is a 21-day plan that'll help wean you into a ketogenic way of eating. Now, a ketogenic way of eating, which I know I kind of haven't even addressed, is more fat-based. So traditional diet, you have mostly carbs, some moderate protein, and low fats, basically. A ketogenic diet is basically just the opposite. You're going to have high fats. Your fats are going to be your fuels, moderate protein, and very low carb. So you're looking at about 75 to 80% fats, 20% proteins, and then about 5% carbs, or 25 to 50 grams of carbs per day. So it's pretty low. So if you look at my last video, I'll link it up here in the card, my resting metabolic rate said, hey, I love and I process carbs really well right now. So for me to just jump cold turkey, stop eating carbs, and then go into keto could be a not great idea. So I like the idea, and even JD said it, hey, why don't you start 50-50 and start to wean into the ketogenic stuff. So I'm going to follow the Keto Reset diet. Like I said, along the way, you have little midterm exam type things where you can see if you're becoming fat adapted, if you're processing fats properly, and all that good stuff. So for me, that's going to be my way forward. Now, why, right? Why? Fats are a lot more satiating. So being that they have a high satiety factor, it's going to allow me to go longer between meals. And for somebody with me with a crazy schedule like I have, where it's kind of shift work, I have an offshore type schedule where I'm not home for a while, I'm home for a while, I'm just traveling all over the place. I don't have a set schedule. I don't have a set way of eating. I could be on the road and it's going to be a lot easier, in my opinion, to be able to go and skip meals. It's going to be easier to find little snacks that are going to work for me, I think. All right. I think that's going to be it for this one. I want to be respectful of your time, and we covered a lot. I know I didn't really go over what the ketogenic diet is and how I'm going to implement it or anything like that. Really, this one was just about my thought process as to why I chose what I chose and what led me to this point of trying something completely different and trying to find a diet and a lifestyle that's going to work long term. Because that's really the goal here, is to find something that's going to work long term and not just be that short term means to an end, like I said in the beginning. I listen to a ton of podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that, and it's really got me to the point where I just feel like I need to challenge some conventional wisdom and experiment and do things on my own and really try out things, because we've always been taught like fats are bad, low fat diet, this, that, and the other. Whereas I found lately that sugar is really more the culprit. And I just want to feel this out, go work through this little thought experiment, do a personal experiment and take you along with me so that way you can figure out for yourself, not me telling you, hey, this is the way you got to be. I don't want to be preachy about anything. I just want to present information and bring information in from all kinds of different sources so that you can make an informed choice for yourself. All right, all that being said, before you go, don't forget, smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you want to go along this journey with me, consider subscribing. Don't forget, while you're down there, hit that little bell icon and you'll be notified every time I upload. As always, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. On the next one, we're going to be talking about the ketogenic diet and do a little deep dive on that. So, hope you stay tuned, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.